everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Doomer Optimism, where we have rotating hosts, rotating guests, and we drink beer during recording as much as possible. I'm pretty sure that Patrick here is already pretty trashed. I'm still on my fourth sip, so although I've been slowly drinking throughout the day, so we'll see. Well, Patrick is the special guest. I don't know if you don't know who Patrick Fitzgerald is. He is the kind of secretive, he was kind of behind the scenes when the Rizoma School account, Ashley Colby, started rising to fame in the internet sphere. And he's really kind of like, what would you say? Are you the man behind the beating heart of Doomer Optimism? Are you like the secret weapon, or are you just kind of like the dead weight? How would you?
I am a man behind Doomer Optimism.
What's that?
I am a man behind Doomer Optimism.
Nice.
I wanted to, I didn't tweet this, but I was going to tweet, like, I think we need to go away from using the phrase, the reason why XYZWQ. Why don't you say a reason? Because guess what? It's probably more than just the reason you're identifying right now. So I'm not the man behind anything except my own self.
Okay.
And that's barely true. So I am a man behind Doomer Optimism.
Okay, then. Well, you're not one for monocausal explanations. That is good.
I am not.
Reality is complex, and maybe we'll talk about that. Well, okay. So for people who are new to this podcast, Doomer Optimism is the sensibility. I would say it's not. I wouldn't say it's a movement. I wouldn't say it's an ideology. It's a sensibility, a structure, a feeling of we in some point in our life we've kind of come to the realization that something about the world is just complete shit. It's rubbish. It's no good. It's going to collapse. It's falling apart. And people have different kind of explanations for why that is. But they tend to they figured out how to carve out either some kind of existential optimism, where the sense of being in this moment is beautiful, or they've constructed maybe an alternative life way that is more meaningful, perhaps more resilient. And so I'm curious if you want to go into your own journey of doom and optimism, and what is your journey? Why are you living in Uruguay with Ashley? Why have you embarked on kind of not a mainstream lifestyle by any means? That's kind of weird. Why are you being weird?
There is no single explanation for this either, so I will go ahead and avoid that. But it's a combination of things. Obviously, getting together with Ashley in 2010, that was a big deal part of it. But the priming was already there. Let's go back to the beginning. So I talked about this before, and then we got cut off, so I've already rehearsed. A lot of bad stuff happened in my young adult time. Hurricane Katrina, financial crash, other stuff, Arab Spring, whatever. I was already checked out by then.
Wait, were you living in Louisiana during Hurricane Katrina? Were you in the middle?
No. I was in Chile during Hurricane Katrina, just watching just a terrible thing unfold with pretty much no help on the horizon, nothing really to be done about it. It's just like, it's just what it is now. So but a lot of crises on a macro level, and then crises on an individual level too, which was it was a lot of stuff about not being able to live the life in the way that you wanted to live because other people weren't really game for it. Friends and family, co-workers, and of course, struck to frustrations and a lot of obstacles to living the way that I wanted to live. And that's just like, let's consider from like the normie 9-to-5 perspective, which I didn't have because I was a high school teacher, so I had summers off. Maybe I'll get into that in a second. Who knows? But even that, like, there was just no satisfaction to it. No, nothing to look forward to really, in spite of having friends and family and hobbies and access to like cheap and easy fun whenever you wanted it. It's just like was not fundamentally satisfying at all. fast forward, I met Ashley. We actually stayed in the US. We lived in the US having known each other, and then we got married. It was like 6 years kind of planning our next steps, what we're going to do, where we're going to live, where we're going to put down roots, whatever. And we considered living in the US and trying to live in a certain way. We wanted to not work a ton especially when we were going to have kids and they were young. We wanted to live in a rural area and someplace secure, someplace safe, someplace stable. And there's a lot of obstacles to that in the US. If you want to live like we live now, we're in a similar type area, you get priced out really fast. It's really expensive to buy. And even this is true 7-8 years ago. I bought this land 9 years ago. So let's say 9 years ago. It's like this in, I don't know, North Dakota or Montana, someplace where land is cheap, property taxes outrageously high. And then you've got to have at least something approaching full-time work from at least one person in order to even have health care.
Right.
So just those two things, for example, those things are a lot easier, far fewer obstacles in a place like where we chose to move. But why we choose Uruguay? Well, it's like 5 things we wrote down on a list, and we seriously considered other places in the world. But if you don't speak the language, there's a giant hurdle that's going to take you years to overcome. And I already spoke Spanish because I've been a Spanish teacher, and I'm 22 years now studying and speaking Spanish. So that was easy, and Ashley learned it very quickly. I've told her this is true. She was like the best I've ever seen at learning a language in like 3 semesters when we were in grad school. Remarkable student, by the way. So Ash is really cool. In case you guys didn't know already, go follow her on Twitter. Smash the subscribe button.
People should follow you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously. That's why I got my thing on the thing. What are the things called?
What's that? We're breaking
it's the handle, right?
What's that?
No. Bad internet.
Yeah, it's the doom. It's the doom.
This is what you have to deal with when you live in the middle of nowhere in it's not a third world country, but it's an out there country. We have actually really good internet. It's just Saturday night, everybody's streaming that playlist.
That's right.
Everybody's here visiting the beach, which is like 5 miles down the road.
Right.
No bandwidth. Anyway, sorry for the internet cutouts.
Well, it's hard to live. Okay, so if you want to all you want and become an internet celebrity overnight. Totally. Podcast is sure to launch you towards.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. That's why I do it. That's why I do everything I do. So I don't even want people to know what street I live on. Why would I want them to know all this? The fame thing, we should get into this later. Ask me about that later. Okay. People's pursuit of fame, my God. So anyway, why do you then go and do that? Well,
so what are the 5 things that you were looking for? So language is one, but I'm curious how
20
things fit into this. So, maybe we didn't get into it as much here, but in the last recording that we had to trash, you were saying that there was kind of this atomization that, people just didn't want to hang out. It seemed like a very kind of the product of a kind of modernist, individualist culture. You were doing this art project during the summer, and people were like, why are you wasting your life? You should be making a lot of money, or you should.
Yeah, let me revisit that. This is just an illustrative example. And I was telling you before that like enough of these things, and it just sets you over an edge. Like, no, I don't need to do this anymore.
Right.
I was a high school teacher. I had summers off, 10 weeks off. I was doing an art project where I was making a collage art out of old magazines, and just like I was doing, it was like a picture of a house. And for the roof part, I cut out every single fake shingle individually. So I cut out like, I don't know, it ended up being probably 200 or something pieces of paper that, like 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. And I was telling a coworker about this in August, September, when we got back to school. And this is somebody who I thought I was like chummy with. And she says like, wow, you got a lot of time on your hands. And I said to myself, I didn't say it to her, like, yeah, we have 10 weeks off in the summer, and I'm doing this art project, and I really liked it, and I stand by doing it completely. And now you're just like mocking me about it because that's your default, and that's just the way people are. And there's so many roadblocks like that culturally. And I don't know how much of this is being exposed to a lot of other cultures, being really not like, what do you call it? Xenocentric. I'm not xenocentric, I don't think in any way. I'm not like, I don't like fetishize other places on earth, but I was super fascinated since I was 14 from learning Spanish, and I've 22 years of speaking Spanish. I just said I have a master's degree in it. I live in some country now, freaking reading all these books and teaching literature. That's not, it's not irrelevant, but a lot of cultural baggage to break through, to just be yourself and not have a bunch of people be downers and just hate on you. And I saw that at every turn. And yeah, I'm like not as normal as other people, and I'm a little bit more fringe and esoteric and idiosyncratic in the stuff that I'm into. But even so, like this, I now I'm going to get into the thing I talked about. I told you I would teased before, the nature of like pessimism and optimism. All right. So take all that stuff, whatever the reasons are. And yeah, it's more like a holistic thing. It's like so many different factors that holistically, this place where we live now in rural western part of Uruguay, it somehow miraculously checked all those boxes and almost without fail has consistently held up that part of what we thought was that's the bargain we're getting into. 5 years next month, 5 years we'll have been here, and it's totally held up in every way. So like, I'm not just saying like, oh, look at what a great decision I made, but it wasn't bad. And I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't a good one. It was very, very tons of hours looking into it and being serious about it, but it worked out super well. And the place I landed worked out well. Now, optimism. All right. A lot of people, once they knew we were moving out of the US, because we already owned this farm since 2012, and we're just kind of working to save enough money to be able to move, not work for, I don't know, for a time period, months to year to 2 years, maybe. I think we were still working the whole time, at least one of us. So those people think like, oh, well, why can't you make stuff work here? And why can't, you know, like do this, do that? And I'm sure that to most of those people, most of these people are family members and some friends, but not the good ones, not the cool ones. I'm sure to them, they think like, oh, you're so pessimistic about the United States. Why are you going to go to some other foreign shore? And I think it's the total opposite. I think it's 180 degrees incorrect, wrong. I think they're pessimistic. And let me explain why. Like, you think this is the best that things can get. You think this life in the United States, where you live, the people that you hang out with, your day to day, your week to week, your year to year, you think that's as good as it gets? It isn't. You're wrong about that. And I didn't say this to anybody except 2 or 3 people, but they're the pessimists. I'm optimistic because I'm going to live something that I want to do. And at least the things that I no longer have to deal with aren't an obstacle anymore. There's tons of other obstacles. I can get into that. Anybody who's interested in that, let me know. I'll elaborate on that in great detail, because it's not easy at all to go live in another country. It's very annoying, and it's not easy. So don't think like, oh, leaving is taking the easy way out. That's insane. And anybody who says that is wrong and stupid. No offense, but you are. But I think it's pessimistic to think like this is your life. This is how it's got to be. It's like, oh, it's not satisfying. Nobody wants to hang out with me. I don't like my job. I really have nothing to look forward to. How is that? How is that anything to pursue? Yeah, I don't think it is. Yeah. So that's the ambling, many turns, incoherent, but just enough truth and whatever in it to be an answer.
Right. So now if I'm going to project a monocausal explanation onto you, would you say that the source of your doom was cultural, cultural degradation or
decadence? Yeah, I think cultural decadence is a good enough phrase. Okay. Because that's broad enough. Like, yeah, it's a single phrase, but it encompasses enough broad things that we know what we're talking about.
And yeah. Do you think is it just because the United States is so materialistic that everybody moved to the suburb? Everybody kind of
materialistic, consumeristic, individualistic.
Individualistic. Neighborhoods stopped having functional interdependence. for their livelihoods. And so there was just no need to get off your computer screen with your family.
Yeah, totally. You're right. And so an author this author was, this is a funny random kind of coincidence, but Ashley, my brother, and one of my brother's best friends, and one of my best friends through my brother, and then a cousin who's a really good friend of mine too. They all studied undergrad studies was media studies, which is kind of bizarre because you need like an undergraduate college degree just to understand how you're being lied to by the media on a daily, minute by minute basis. But this author who we really love, Ashley loved this author, Morris Berman, United States historian. He's still alive. He lives in Mexico. He moved out for similar type of reasons. He basically said, like, I had nobody else to talk. There was no one to talk to. Just my life just instantly got better when I moved to Mexico. And the only thing I regret is not doing it 20, 30 years earlier. So Morris Berman was assigned in a class that my brother and my good friend had in this media studies. Is called Dark Ages America. He wrote this trilogy about kind of the decline of America. 3 books are called Twilight of American Culture, Dark Ages America, and Why America Failed. And they're really good books. And in the middle one, The Dark Ages America, he points out 3 inventions in the 20th century that really just destroyed community. And he's a very good scholar, and it's really well documented. And he's really good at synthesizing all these things that kind of, what you put it into is cultural degradation and decadence. 3 inventions in the 20th century. The first one was automobile, other one was television, and the third one was air conditioning. Automobile, air conditioning, and television made people not hang out with each other anymore and really not know their neighbors, not see their friends or family in the kind of way that made it so that you had no choice, but like, because you're just this product of, thousands of years of a way of socializing it and being acculturated and whatever. So those 3 things did it in the US.
I have a sense why the automobile and the television would lead to that. Air conditioning, I'm kind of intrigued. Is it because people just didn't go outside anymore? Because
in the summer, in the hot months, they just hid in their probably where the TV was, or reading, whatever, and they didn't sit out on the stoop. They didn't go sit in a city setting. So let's say sit on the front stoop was very much a thing in the summers. You opened up the fire hydrants, all the kids played together, and you did whatever. And it's like just hanging out with people in person, as I know you know.
Because there's automobiles, you go outside, you might get a car. Kids can't just go play in the streets.
Yeah, the automobile was more like a community suburbs thing where you could live more distant from people, but also that, it cut off like streets and like physical commons more. Yeah. So that's I want to give a shout out to my man Morris Berman. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off, but if I can, I think Morris Berman would actually have a lot of fun on our Doomer Optimism podcast. He wrote a blurb for Ashley's book.
Really?
He's a good dude. Yeah, he's very accessible too.
Yeah. Okay, so I've read one article by Morris Berman that Ashley had sent me when she was going to guest teach in my class, the dual process theory, which my basic understanding is that basically certain kind of structures of, say, American life, cultural, perhaps it's economic as well, are kind of crumbling, but we can kind of at the same time we have one foot in that. It's kind of hard to extricate ourselves from that, but we can have another foot in building up alternatives, alternative institutions, alternative ways of living. Do you want to expand on that and how that relates to what you guys are doing now?
Yeah, you've explained it really well. That's good. That's a good intro to it. So the dual process idea is it's that, as one thing is in decline, something else is on the rise. They'll run parallel to each other for a while, and the one doesn't negate the other one. It doesn't make the other one go away. And something that Morris Berman talks about, which Ashley doesn't emphasize, because, well, it's not super relevant, but the thing that comes next is not necessarily better. So don't don't be mistaken. There's the Doomer part.
Ashley has been keeping this quiet.
No, I mean, obviously, I know, and
you call this podcast Doomerism, not Doomer Optimism.
No, it's Doomer Pessimism, and I was being a little bit like that when we were doing the anarcho contrarian chat, I was being the most pessimistic one, but I'm not really, because the thing that's going to be worse, I think, is going to be what replaces, let's just call it global capitalism, which has, according to a lot of different people studying it, like it's on this 500-year arc or whatever, ending in, let's say, 2100. I think this is also another Morris Berman thing. I think it's the Immanuel Wallerstein theory. So anyway, let's just say that. So the next thing that big powerful governments implement, I have no confidence that will be a better thing than what's going on now.
Right.
But what the peasants do, what the people who are let's just say dropping out or seceding from that, tons of cool stuff. I mean, you see all this stuff. There's tons of this stuff that's we're Twitter friends, and that's like the way that we've connected. All this stuff is very easily seen on Twitter, and it's really cool because it's nice to see this mediating and alienating, usually, tool, internet, serve to re-embed people, re-ground them in the real world more.
Words, I like it. Keep going.
Yeah, I know. And then because later maybe we'll get into the game portion of our chat, which is where we're not allowed to say certain phrases. So yeah, so whatever the current paradigm is in decline. Other alternatives to it, or at least dealings with it, copings with it, are going to arise just as a matter of course. They're just going to. It's what always has happened. And history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, is the thing people say a lot. So when you have the fall of Rome, and then you get into, from the fall of Rome to the Renaissance, the only real social institution that's a constant in Europe is the church. So some things are going to hang on from the now into the whatever the next thing is, which is going to be beyond our lifetimes. And we're in the old ancient Chinese curse of "May you live in interesting times." So that's us. Que suerte, as my friend Pablo says. How lucky. But he just says it for anything. Wow, Pablo got a shout out on Doomer Optimism. Pablo should be a guest. He doesn't. Go ahead.
We're in the hard times make hard men phase. We're heading into that right now.
Make strong men.
We're all softies. I'm a softie. And
I mean, I used to be, but I'm like, and I don't know what I can't keep up with all this shit. Like, no, excuse my language. I have this thing that I tell. I'm a really big fan of music. I like to sing. I like to play music. I like to listen to music, but I cannot keep up with what is like a popular music, what is hip, what is critically acclaimed, whatever. It feels like it would have to be a full-time job. I don't have the ability to do it. And what was I saying? What was the last thing I was talking about? Oh, remind me.
You're an aspiring peasant. Do you have an alt account? There is an account called Aspiring Peasant. Is that you?
No. That's some guy in Oregon. He's a real person.
I know. He likes short shorts. He was in the military, but he's an aspiring peasant. So, and it sounds like you're saying that you're also an aspiring peasant. So he took your username. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh no. No, I'm just saying the commoners, people who are not like, I don't want to be a power broker. I don't want to be some manager of whatever. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. That whole online discourse stuff about like alpha males and beta males and omega males and sigma males. Ash was trying to explain something like that today. I cannot keep up with all this stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I used to definitely not an alpha male, probably never will be, but I am definitely of this sort where I just see through that stuff as being very silly. And I'm not saying it has no place. It does have a place. Just I don't want any part of it because I know how stupid it is, but I'm definitely a lot more hardened and stronger of a man than I was 10 years ago, obviously 15 years ago for sure. And yeah, it definitely does come through hard times, but you have to have enough of a ground to not let hard times completely destroy you. And I've got a lot of good fortune in that regard. So I'm not going to pretend like it's no bootstrapping thing. It's a lot of good fortune, but also, I don't know. So what you were asking before, like, why did you do this weird thing and go live in some other country? Like, I'm not brave. I'm just not scared. I don't think they're the same thing.
Hmm.
So take that and run with it and tattoo that on your bicep.
I'm not brave, but I'm not scared. That sounds like you're pretty
Yes.
brave. I think that's the
I don't think so, but
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. Do you share? I know Ashley talks a lot about like some of the sources of her doomerism, have to do with environmental things, with, energy, not being optimistic about our energy future. Do you share also those kind of sources of doom, or is it mostly cultural for you?
yeah, I do, but I got too into thinking about those things a few years ago, and I had to, as a matter of survival, just stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So like I would just think about, soil depletion and fossil fuel depletion, and then whatever, sea level rise, all that stuff. But mostly I was thinking about, like, if you don't have food or clean water, like, then everybody does die at an unbelievable precipitous rate, and that could still happen. But really, yeah, thinking about those in detail, that didn't do me any good. And
Well,
enough people. Yeah, I think you have to have these. You have to have enough. Let's just call it social cohesion going forward, even in traumatic and crumbling and collapse type times. If you have just enough social cohesion, the physical collapse and not being able to transport stuff around the world or burn certain types of energy and whatever, it is survivable on like a mass scale. I'm not saying there's no casualties. There definitely are. But really, if people forget how to stop being people in groups together,
yeah,
which I think you're at this, that's almost like a scarier tipping point than whatever this 400 parts per million stuff, because then you're totally lost.
Yeah. A society in collapsing time that bands together versus a society that goes to war with itself is going to look very different for sure. And
I think both will happen without a doubt, because you'll have places so in a world where if you have the funds, you can just be on the other side of the world in 12 or 15 hours. Yeah. You still have nothing in common whatsoever in North Carolina with what southern South America has. And then, like, let's not even talk about Central Africa or East Africa or Northern Europe. Like, you just really don't, except for your kind of economic ties, which could easily go away. Yeah. And could easily go away and really not affect you still that much. I mean, like, I bring this up all the time. People get so hot and bothered. And I just like insert myself just to be not sticking my fingers and stuff or in wounds or anything, or just to be such a troll. But the political stuff, like, your life, I don't think, unless you're in the military, is the one that comes to mind. Your life really didn't change if you were born in 1985 like I was. You're around the same age.
83.
Born 83. So you're my sister's age. So our lives probably didn't really change in any noticeable way for us from the time that we were born to the time when we were 35.
Yeah.
Like, depending on who the president was.
Right.
So, I mean, that's your own country. And Anarcho-Contrarian was talking about that too. Like, just stop caring about this stuff. Like, it actually does not matter. Not that it can't matter. And it could change, but I'm just saying it didn't really matter. And
the same dynamic.
I hate every president that was the American president since I've been born. I literally hate every single one of them. I only think that there's one good person who's ever been president that I know of, and that's Jimmy Carter. And of course, he is a one-term president who didn't even get realized, who lost in the biggest landslide in history.
Right.
I swear, he's the only good person who ever was president.
Now for a joke. But I agree that, he was the only president, during the oil crisis that was like, hey, maybe we should try and use less energy.
Stop using so much oil.
Sweater. Before, like, no.
He had solar panels put on top of the White House, and Reagan got elected and he took the solar panels off.
Right. Yeah.
What a perfect episode to like pathetically meaningless symbolic act that nonetheless is super telling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
So
diatribe.
okay, so we've talked about how like culture really matters, in terms of being resilient as a society, and it seems like are you finding this like kind of connected community down where you guys are that you didn't find in the United States? Are you finding that like I mean already people I'm guessing aren't as wealthy there, and so a lot of the dynamics that led to the atomization in the United States never really took hold. Are you finding this level of connectedness, and are you connecting it to these economic dynamics as well?
Yes, the quick answer is yes, for sure. The people who have made connections with here, who are friends and neighbors and people who we just have these loose ties with, yeah, like good, hardworking people. I know a couple wealthy people around here, but not really. They exist. They're not really my friends, but a couple. It's all different types, and
Yeah.
But on the whole, yeah, a lot less good fortune because of just the country you're born in and the time. There was a military dictatorship here from 1973 till 1985. A lot of huge economic troubles because Uruguay's economy is so dependent upon what's going on in Argentina or Brazil, and those are not exactly the most politically or economically stable places. So yeah, like a lot more people who know how to deal with less, and it's not a bad time to live in Uruguay, I think, since Uruguay had like, what do you call it, positive GDP growth during the financial collapse, which is odd and miraculous, but it's also insulated from it. So yeah, people, the community stuff is definitely a thing, and part of it's like a rural area, small town type dynamic where you're more accountable to people because you know them, you know where they live, your kids go to school with them, and the anonymity that you get in a big city, for example, it allows a lot of being an irresponsible brat a lot of the time, and pettiness that you get away with. I'm not saying pettiness and being a brat doesn't exist around here, but there's some cultural stuff going on with Uruguayans where a lot more egalitarian. There's this thing like people say like nobody is more than anybody else here, and it's enforced, and there's a little bit of a conformity stuff going on here that I'm not exactly thrilled about.
Yeah,
but you fight that just by doing your own thing, and people let you do your own thing. That's the other thing. It's a cool kind of paradoxical thing. Like there's a lot of pressure to. There's also a lot of liberty to do whatever the hell you want. It's really a cool place in that regard. There's some cool political history behind that too. Uruguay is it's very much a heretical state. It's non-religious since 1913 or something, over 100 years. But that's got some good things to come along with it. A lot of judgment, a lot of freedom, a lot of strong democracy when there's not the military taking over. I think only years ago, I don't know if it's the case anymore, or if it was true in the first place. But in Uruguay, you can actually overturn a Supreme Court decision by a popular referendum. 50% plus one. You can overturn a Supreme Court decision. That would be really cool if that were the case in the US, don't you think? If you had Citizens United was a 5-4 decision. Right. So one person on a Supreme Court got to say like, yeah, Citizens United happens. People, corporations are people too, my friend.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure the United States would take advantage of that, because I think that.
Oh, hell no. Nobody would sign a petition to get it on the ballot. They're like, nah.
That are very popular among the plurality or majority of United States citizens, but because of money in politics, people find wedge issues to distract people from their common interest. So
of course, and I think this is a Princeton University thing in like 2013. It said like the United States is not even a a representative federal republic. It's really just oligarchical. And this is your best university. Like this is saying this in 2013. Like what's happened since then? You know, no bueno.
Right.
All right, we need to pause for our sponsors. These are not our sponsors. Volcanica Ipa Mango, very good beer. I think Volcanica sold to Heineken though, so they're like Uruguayan craft beer, but I think they.
Some people say they sold out, but other people say they bought it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Either way, cheers.
Cheers. Well, let me give a shout out to our sponsor from Appalachian Mountain Brewery. It's Mountain Delight.
We're doing slave labor for them right now. We're doing unpaid plugs. We're just making slaves.
This is a local brewery, my town. It's brunched out, it's brewed with donuts, coffee, and cacao nibs. So this is delicious.
Yeah, because like donuts are just made of grain too.
That's right.
Beer is just liquid donut fermented.
Exactly. So they just made it explicit, which I appreciate. So yeah, Boone, North Carolina.
Truth in advertising.
Check it out. All right, and I'm about to open actually my second one. So as we slowly become more incoherent, I don't know why.
That's not true. I'm a bell curve. I'm yeah. It's the what is it? No, what's the opposite of the bell curve?
Yeah, you're midwit right now, but you're
no. I was a midwit when I was a midwit when I started, and I'll be a midwit when I finish. And I will merge with the Jedi and one-eyed Cyclops dummy guy.
Right. Yeah, because there's a lot of solidarity between those two tales, as we know from internet memes.
Oh, all right. Go ahead. Come on, Charlie Rose me. Charlie Rose it up.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about
the harassment.
Tell me a little bit, like how long after you met Ashley did you guys know that you were both kind of doomers? And you were gonna like skip out and go become peasants?
Like 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
That's a true story. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what was the conversation where you just stumbled upon that and then your eyes locked and you're like,
you want to hear something so remarkably crazy? As far as a serendipitous moment. All right. This is bizarre because this let me get to it. 2010 we met. Had a very interesting beginning to our relationship, which is a story for another day. Actually, so already talking about like
crisis. So there was this. I'm just providing the contextual backdrop.
Totally. Yeah. Ashley had been working as a truck driver, which was like from some recovery government program. Like we'll retrain you, so she got trained for free to become a truck driver. She had been a truck driver. She quit it and started moving in with me and living with me, and then working other jobs. And she was talking about how like, yeah, this stuff's all falling apart. Things are really dire. And I was like, yeah, they kind of are. They're probably not that bad. They probably got a couple decades to go. I was like, yeah, but do we really want to risk that? Let's start working on a way to mitigate that as far as our personal situation goes.
This is then that you decided that you're going to work together for decades to mitigate. This is
we had like 5-10 year plans for sure. Like it was vague. It wasn't like XYZ. Well, I'm not that like spreadsheet type of a person. I can't do that stuff. She could, but I resist against it. But no. Vaguely and generally, yeah, you should have those things going on. At least have the wheels turning in your head about what you're gonna do when stuff it's not shit hits the fan. Shit hits the fan it's not a single event. I've said this in many different places, many different times. Doomsday is not a day. Yeah. It's like a century. Yeah. It's a process. It's not a day. That's nuts. It's like unless you live in Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Yeah, that's the problem with the word collapse that gets thrown around a lot in our circles, and it gives the wrong impression. Like buildings are collapsing, and it's like, oh, that's a sudden event. But that's why I try and avoid using it. But I actually don't know a better word.
Yeah, and people use Soviet Union, but it's like Soviet Union. Yeah, okay, that's one country which was so big and too big for its own good. Like, you think people in Georgia, like, do you think they were living any different from like when everything in Moscow like collapsed? That's not what happened. It sucked, and it continued to suck until it didn't, and that's all a process. But it's not a day. It's just like get that thought out of your head. So anyway, back to the thing about Ashley. 2010. Summer 2010, I'm off of work because I'm a teacher and I got 10 weeks off. So that was nice. That really we just fell in love. really liked each other's company. We like each other more than we liked each other then, which is great. That's a great thing about our relationship. The album by Arcade Fire called The Suburbs comes out in 2010. We're listening to this thing nonstop. This thing is one of the best albums about distilling all those feelings about a lot of the overlap with the stuff we're talking about, living in the suburbs, wishing you were a kid again, seeing how urban sprawl is taking over, how life is never as beautiful as it was when you were a kid, but it used to be not as unbeautiful. Things are getting worse from a really sensitive artistic perspective through just pop music. And then this record just wins the Grammy. Even the Grammys knew how accurate that record was, which is nuts. Like, how did this thing win the Grammys? I remember reading newspapers. Everyone's like, "Who's Arcade Fire?" I was like, first of all, Arcade Fire is not like a no-name band, but like, are you serious? They actually gave the Grammy to something that deserved it ever? Bizarre. So that happened. And what was your question earlier?
What was my question? I'm on my second beer. Let's see. Okay, so let me. Well, we were talking about this notion of collapse, and you're saying it's like a century-long process. That's all. That's, I like John Michael Greer. He kind of frames it that way as well.
Yep.
Catabolic collapse.
Long descent, right?
Kind of the long descent.
I gave that book to my sister for Christmas. I don't know if she ever read it.
Yeah. Okay. So you started 3 weeks in. You both come to the conclusion that we're in the long descent, and you start making plans. Ashley starts up with the spreadsheets. The 5 things. I'm curious about the 5 things. What are the 5 things? Like what? I'm still curious. Like, what boxes did Uruguay tick? So Spanish speaking.
I don't think it's 5 things, but I'll give you 5. If I go beyond 5, we'll keep going. How easy to move there as a foreigner? How easy to emigrate?
Yeah.
Quality and price of land.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare, education, water, language. I'm already on 6. Yeah. Economic and political stability.
Mm-hmm.
Not being such an outsider. I mean, no offense, but like, I don't think there's many places in Africa that would have felt welcome or would have actually been welcome. Maybe a couple, but tricky. Like, Africa like wasn't on my radar, because it's mostly European immigrants who populate much of that, or at least mestizo. But there's always, people, you don't want to like stick out so bad that you just always feel like a foreigner and always are viewed like that.
Yeah.
I met a guy who I know. I just met his son. They're from Argentina. Well, there's a lot of immigrants from around here. Obviously, Argentina and Brazil. We've got several friends. Like probably half of our friends are from Argentina and Brazil, and then the rest are Uruguayan. But they're all here. And I just met him, and he I was dropping off the lawnmower to get fixed because it was sputtery at the mechanic shop, and I introduced myself because I saw he was there with his dad, who I already know. And he said, like, "Oh, you're from the US? Like, you don't even have an accent." I was like, "Yeah, I've been here 5 years." So like, I don't stick out like that.
Yeah.
So that was something that was more concerning to Ashley, because she said when she traveled Taiwan, India, people just like come up and stare at you because you're a tall, very pale person. And the only places she fit in were like Northwest Europe. That's the only places she could fit in. Right. So those things, those are 7 or 8 things I already mentioned. Oh yeah, we looked at which places on Earth are probably going to be least affected by climate change. We were looking at stuff like at that level.
Yeah.
So there's 8.
Were there any places in the United States that you considered, but that you ended up ruling out?
If you're asking me and not Ashley, yeah, Western North Carolina. I'm not joking. This is not some like it's not something contrived. Western North Carolina is a beautiful place. Parts of New England, New Hampshire, Vermont.
Yeah.
Certain parts of the Intermountain West, not California, probably not Colorado, but maybe certain parts of Montana, Idaho, because we lived in Pullman, Washington for grad school, and Idaho is right across the street, 6 miles away. And I liked a lot of parts of Idaho, but not really. I couldn't have stayed in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like on the border of Canada, a couple areas, maybe, but not really. So the place I mentioned, but not like if of 50 states,
Mhm.
like 5 or 6 regions of 5 or 6 states. But it just wasn't doable.
Yeah.
It wasn't doable for what we were trying to do lifestyle wise.
Right.
Because I mean, this is a funny fact. When Ashley came to visit Cognizor Jason Snyder in Boone, North Carolina, I didn't. I was a little jealous because it's really beautiful there, as I've talked about. But Ashley went away with the 2 older daughters, and I was with the baby for 3 days. And I've only been away from the baby for 2 days of her whole life since she was born in March of 2020. So I've spent more days with the 1-year-old than Ashley has, and she's her mom. And she's only been away from her 3 days ever. And I've only been away from her 2 days. So I wanted to, like, when I had young children, to be with them way more than most people are.
Yeah.
They're not always going to need you to be around that much. I'm going to get bored. I'm already getting bored. And I'm already like trying to like start working again. And I'm going to do that. But I think the way that people structure their lives in the, let's call it the life course, that's what they call it in sociology, it's totally backwards in like Western society. When you're young and working before you have children, you should work psychotic hours, like way more than you should. And I've done this, and I even burned out on it. But like I have a full-time job as a teacher, and then I would work a part-time job on the weekends. For this just had like perks. And then I realized I worked 19 days straight one time in 2008. 19 straight days that I went to work without day off. And yeah, the work that I was going to on the weekends was only like 4-hour shifts, so very part-time. But it was stupid amount of work. I was like, this is stupid. But I would have done it again now. In hindsight, that was a good decision. Work a ton when you're like young. When you have kids, you need to be working at most like half time. Then when they're all in school, then go back to working full time. Like, what are we doing? We're doing everything backwards.
Yeah.
It's really silly. And I'm like, because I don't care about being wealthy. I have no regrets. I have no reservations. And I never lose any sleep over like not working a ton in the prime earning years. What's like the prime earning years is like 30 to 45 or whatever. Or I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know this stuff. This is beyond my pay grade, literally and figuratively. So I'm just sounding like
apparently
I don't back down from my opinion, and I know it's at least right for me, and I think it'll be right for a huge chunk of people if they tried it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of speaks to this loss of community cohesion, because if there's like, the kids are at home, young, and there's parents around, and there's activity going on, and the kids are, you're getting that quality time, and in our society, both parents are working full time usually. The kids are at baby daycare, and that seems to be part of the hollowing out of American culture. I don't know.
Without a doubt it is. And there's a lot. It's funny to me when people have debates on social media like nuclear family. I completely am not pro-nuclear family, but it's in the opposite direction of what most people think when they're not pro-nuclear family, whatever. Like multi-generational families a gazillion times better. And we actually had it in my household. When I was born, my grandfather, my mother's father, lived with us, and he lived with me until he died when I was 8 years old. This is one of my like most important role models of my life, and it was multi-generational living. He was a huge, important influence on my dad too, because my dad's dad died when he was only 28 years old, I think, 27 or 28. So, and then my mom's dad lived with him from when they got married for 11 years. So his father-in-law got to see him be a grown man much longer than his dad ever got to. And that was a big deal. Then my dad's mom moved in with us later after she sold her house. And that was another intergenerational family set up, and it was great. But people are losing the ability to just get along with each other enough to make that doable. And freaking sticking your family in a nursing home or whatever,
Right.
that's
It's pretty dark.
it's never happened in my family's history as far as like parents and children type thing. It's not happening on my watch, like unless there's some catastrophic illness or something where we just are not able to do it. But even my dad and my aunt, who are both over 70 years old now, their younger brother had a catastrophic injury when he was like in his early 50s. He had a stroke, and he is paralyzed on half of his body, and he doesn't live in a nursing home. They take care of him. And he lives down the street from my parents, which was fortunate in that regard. But like, no, that stuff's not happening. Not on my watch. So it's nuts.
Yeah.
And it's part of that deteriorated. And yeah, like, how do you get it back? It's almost like you have to be conservative in the sense of the word, like, no, keep the thing that's been going, or whatever you get called reactionary or whatever. Like, you don't understand how much better that was, because you're used to this really weird, this acronym weird. I don't remember what it stands for. It's like Western.
I've heard the acronym
developed.
Yeah. I don't remember what everything stands for.
Western, industrial, and developed are three of the letters in this acronym weird.
Mm-hmm.
But you really are weird because you've lost that ability. And it's like social skills. I feel, okay. There was cement in the Roman Empire, right? And then cement wasn't rediscovered until when? In Portland, in England. Portland cement. So that's just lost knowledge. Like, that's just cement.
Yeah.
Social knowledge, I hope it's a lot quicker to recover, because it's definitely, it's like saber-toothed tiger going extinct.
Right. Well, so this brings up an interesting topic for me. This kind of difference between kind of the longtime localist versus the new localist, the neo-localist. So, if we ask somebody like, Boyle Dowell, he's like, well, I've been here for, 12 generations. I never left. And, justifiably, he likes to give, us kind of new localists a hard time. But at the same time, I'm also, I think, a product of this, last couple generations where families scattered all over the place. I've moved all around. All the incentives were to move around to get out. And so now I'm pretty like rootless, and so my thinking is, well, I want to, I like it here in Western North Carolina. It seems like there's a lot of potential here for, family and perhaps multi-generational family. But, this is not where I was born, right? And so I'm curious, like for you, in terms of advice for like managing this long descent, would your advice be basically, if you have this kind of multi-generational family, if you have the social capital, stay put. But if you don't, then maybe you have to leave and go find that place that checks all of those boxes, and then try and build that from the beginning.
Yeah. And yes, yes. If you have it already, it's well enough in place already. Yeah. Go for it in the place that you are. I mean, I worry if I were in a city for dozens of reasons, but I mean, yeah, there's so many people who have this, and Boyle Dowell is rightfully, for as nuts as Boyle Dowell is, you better watch this, Neil Clark. You better watch this. I'm going to at you. It's like I'm not jealous of him. I'm like thrilled for him that he's got that foundation. Yeah. And there's a lot of people like that. The thing that when he brings those things up, what I think of as, and I don't take it personally because it's not personal, first of all. The second thing that I think of is where I'm from and what I'm from. There's really not a there. Like I can't embark on some kind of project of living the way that I know that I need to in order to not be insane. I can't do that in a dense urban south side of Chicago setting for another dozen reasons that are they're insurmountable. And like, there was people giving I remember people giving me and Ashley shit about like, why would you leave the US? Like, you can't like fix problems by like running away from them. It's like, first of all, that's completely ridiculous. You can change tons of problems by running away from them. And that's like almost a no-brainer. Yeah. Second of all, how arrogant are you to think that you just being someplace is going to fix all the problems, or like you have to. I don't think it's arrogance. It's this. It's you want to present yourself as like fighting the good fight. Like, well, I don't think it's a good fight, to be honest. I don't think it's a good fight because unwinnable, like where you sacrifice your own self for some ideal that you are almost for sure isn't going to happen, and for people who are kind of also very much in decline and in decadence. Look, I don't want to like sound like such a hater, but I get along a lot better with people from other countries than I did from people who are from the US. And I don't have the same shared cultural reference points to really understand the people who I do get along with well, who are from a similar culture as me. Yeah, you're never going to replicate that. I come close a couple times and with some friends from around the world, but no, you can't because I think it's impossible. It's impossible to really understand somebody, even though you're from the same place. The closest I've ever come is who I'm married to, obviously, because we're from the same neighborhood, same age, and same kind of cultural context. But beyond the people I really, really hit it off with in the place that I'm from, a lot more frustration than what I can handle. I'm not that strong.
Yeah.
I'm not scared, but I'm not that strong. And I'm definitely not arrogant enough to think like, I'm going to stay here and fix everything. Like, I'm not, because I don't think that. I don't think anybody really does if they're being honest with themselves. But I think, yeah, if you've got enough of a foundation, you can make it work in places. You can make it work in, hopefully it doesn't come to it, war-torn places. It's possible. But I think pretending like a certain place in a certain context isn't more ripe or more fertile, if we're going to use some agricultural metaphors or analogies, whatever. I think that's delusional. Pretending like all places are equal in what they offer for what you can do there. I think that's nuts. And I'm not going to push that for a second. So no, I don't think every place is equal. But I don't know what the magic formula is of physical geography and social capital and social cohesion and community solidarity and like sense of shared vision or purpose. Nobody knows that. I don't know that. I'm not going to pretend like I do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I'm curious, like, do you two have like a vision? I mean, I know that Ashley's very ambitious person, right? She likes to find agency where she can, as she puts it. And Twitter is definitely, you this summer you guys did kind of this road trip. You met a bunch of folks. I met Ashley and a couple of your daughters, and she's starting this homesteading course. And is this? I'm curious, like, was this kind of part of your vision all along to like, get established and then connect internationally, or is this kind of a new development? How does this fit into your kind of like longer term plan as a family? Like, are you going?
No, we didn't move here. We didn't even. Ashley sometimes, I don't think she's misrepresenting it, but she talks about how like we founded this like the Rizoma Field School in Uruguay, but we didn't move here to start a school. Yeah. We moved here to live the way we wanted to live.
Yeah.
And then along the way, because Ashley was still involved she's a sociologist, she's still interested in being a sociologist, and that means you got to do research stuff. She met a bunch of people. We had friends of friends, contacts of contacts. She kept going to conferences. She kept being interested in stuff. She kept researching, publishing. She was, finishing her dissertation, which got turned into a book. And then the idea of doing the alternative service breaks kind of emerged. And I'm a teacher. My background's in education. We want to have the way that we live be of some service beyond just our own ends. So if we're already teachers and academics, that was like a logical next step to going into what are the things? Education and activism. So it's like learn about what's going on, teach people about what what people are doing and where they can go and what they can do in their own context for it. And the activism part is like live what you do. Really, it's not like activism because Ashley talks about that all the time. Like we're not like going and marching with signs and stuff. That something tangential to that happens once in a while or enough. But like activism, build stuff. We were at the slow food Uruguay market today, and like going to those things, that's activism. It's low key activism,
Right.
but it's not nothing.
Yeah.
Talking,
You're actually
getting the word
doing
out and
doing the idea
living.
that you're activating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So no, we didn't move here with that idea. We moved here to live in a way that we thought would, is in keeping with what we wanted to do with our lives. And it's emerged because of all the other things serendipitously.
Okay, so it's kind of so it sounds like what you're saying is that it's just kind of like you're kind of open to things arising, but you don't have, and perhaps this is also maybe a rebellion from like kind of the American culture where you have like a 10, 20, 30-year plan, you have your, your savings accounts and you have your investments, and you're kind of you're seeing opportunities arise, and you're taking them, but you're kind of like going with the flow. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, it is. You're characterizing it accurately enough. Yeah, it's more going with the flow than it is some kind of project. But
yeah,
when you end up going with the flow, doing the field school stuff and what we now are involved in, and the fact that I don't know how, but like very quickly, just by kind of caring enough to share with people beyond who we can talk to in our neighborhood and people that we know in person. Ashley's got like what 4,500 followers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice, and it motivates you to do stuff and realize that the things that you're trying to do aren't insignificant, and they could get a lot bigger. And I know that because she's a lot more enterprising and ambitious of a person than I am, she's going to make those things happen. She's already making those things happen in many ways. But it's like awoken in me certain things like, yeah, this is this project, and this would be so great, and I know it's a good idea, and I know everybody's going to think I'm a total nutcase for bringing it up.
Yeah,
but it's going to happen, and it's good. It's a good way. It's a good virtuous cycle where you start doing stuff without trying to force it.
Yeah.
Because if I was trying to force it, I would have just been forcing it in the U.S. for the last 10 years and just continue on and just be whatever, wherever I've been on that trajectory. But no, I it's weird. It sounds like it's self-contradictory, but go with the flow. But it's the thing Ashley talks about with finding agency where it arises. It's like, you're not just going to will your way to anything or act your way to anything.
Yeah. There
are structures bigger than you. But when those opportunities arise, and when you're in some good cycle or on some wave, you need to ride it, you need to take advantage of it. And that's the attitude. And that's, I think, as far as I am concerned, as I'm saying, for my own life, that's the way I'm going to do it and want to do it. And I'm a little mad at myself about like not doing as much as I think I ought to, but it's changing, and I'm turning a corner on it. So
what was that? Was that part of you? Because I think Ashley was saying that you were a little hesitant to start a Twitter account for a while, and now you've gone on and you're kind of,
Twitter. No offense, I put my handle up here, but like, no, Twitter is not like, my goals are not like people know me on Twitter. All right, I'm going to segue myself into this because I think it would.
Well, what I mean by getting on Twitter is kind of what it affords, which is, making these kind of, broad scale connections, right? So we're all kind of like localists, but at the same time, we're talking with people all over the, the country and the world, and who are interested in some of the stuff. So there's almost like this digital localism, right? Where like similar interests are, coming together. And so you chose to enter into that fray. Why did you choose that? Why are you giving yourself to the beast, is what I'm asking.
It's probably just worth it enough to do it. It's fun. It's fun and funny enough, and I still mostly just have fun on Twitter. I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm sure
you are a pun master. I've known.
Thank you.
I've known one or two other people who are extremely good at puns, and you're right up there with them. So I just want to let people know that if you're looking for a good pun
think tank, baby, pun think tank. Thank you, appreciate that.
You can monetize that.
They reside deep in my soul.
Yeah,
I've had some.
Do you create
special experiences?
They just arise spontaneously. Are you just that clever that they just arise?
I'm just like, I've got like a hyper awareness of words
Yeah. Yeah.
And except the good thing about that is I don't like get offended by words that much. So I don't know.
Okay.
But I was on a very mystical experience trip once, euphemism. I was taking mushrooms and I just kept making puns. I just kept making puns the whole time I had these mushrooms. So that's how I knew they reside deep in my soul.
Yeah.
I actually got better at puns after taking mushrooms, believe it or not. True story, unverifiable and non-falsifiable as well. So let's just go ahead and submit that for the record.
Right. Well, Ashley was giving us some suggestions for this conversation, some games. I don't know if we want to move into that, if we want to do that or move into that section. Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you wish, like what do you wish I had asked? You know, ask it of yourself and then answer it.
Here's why that doesn't matter. So nothing. Here's why that doesn't matter.
Okay.
The whole point of this, doing this and having me be like the interview person was so that when I go and then do the future Doomer Optimism podcast and I'm like hosting and whatever and all that people don't just have no baseline on which to like judge like what is this doing? And there's a lot we didn't get to and we're not going to because it's a whole person here. Okay, this is not my first rodeo. I'm not young, but I'm not old, but there's some stuff there. It'll come out as it comes out. You can't force it.
Yeah.
But what I am,
are you like?
Huh?
You said you're a whole person. So how many dimensions does that imply?
I don't know all the ones that there are. I don't know how many are there.
There must be something that you need to express, get off your chest. Something.
No, I don't think so, and I'll tell you why I don't think so.
No, okay.
Because listen to me talk about whatever. Lo que sea, fill in the blank. You'll get enough of a sense about what the hell's up with me, and then it'll just the other things will fill in the blanks as time goes on. But no, people listen to me to talk about friggin' whatever. I think they'll get a good enough sense, so we don't have to force it.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
One thing Ashley said is that you tend to radicalize her. How do you do that?
I radicalize her?
Yeah, she did say that once.
Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna need a citation on that one.
Are you a radical? We can skip that question.
No. This is important.
It's important. Okay. I hope I didn't I hope that was not something that was supposed to be kept private or something.
No. I never even heard of that before.
Anything. Okay.
I'm not a radical in the political sense of like radical as this this is bizarre root. The root of that word is from the word for root. So it's like to uproot something and completely like rip it out of the ground. No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm radically different than the average person from the United States or from the weird sphere.
Yeah.
I'm a lot like them in a lot of easily identifiable, more superficial ways. But no, I'm not trying to. No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. That's a hard question. It's almost like you can't. It's almost like asking somebody to psychoanalyze themselves.
Right.
I don't think that's for me to answer.
Right.
And I don't know that I've ever said that. I don't know that I would ever trust somebody else's outside judgment more than my own. But for a question like that's
yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's inaccessible. I think it's inaccessible to the person's own.
Yeah, I don't know if I presented that correctly. It was something about how. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if radicalize is the exact way to put it.
Sponsor break. Volcanica kicking ass today. Volcanica cerveza de maracuja. Maracuja is some kind of native fruit. I don't know if you can read it. It's like the inverse screen thing. Maracuja. Ooh, Volcanica hitting it out of the ballpark tonight. So anyway, I'm on to my last beer, but there's still plenty because we're chatting a lot. So yeah, I don't think, Jason, let me tell you, I don't think that's a question for me to answer because.
Okay. I think Ashley has a lot to account for. She's gonna have to explain herself on the next.
Yeah, you know what? I probably shouldn't be privy to that. Like I should. That should be for the rest of the world to know, and not me. It could ruin me.
Said that. Man,
I don't know.
You just messed something up. All right.
I
Well,
mean, I hope I radicalize her in not worrying about things that aren't as worrisome as I think they aren't. Because I think that's why my one very a strength that I bring to our relationship. And I hope that rubs off, which is all right. This is gonna be actually complimentary. Ashley's the best ever. So just so you guys all know that who are watching this. 2 days ago, I asked Ashley to do something, just like she was sitting on the couch. And I was like, "Oh, could you do this? Could you do this thing for me?" And she said, "No." And I laughed and I said, "I'm so proud of you, because that's what I would say if you asked me the similar thing. And now I know I'm rubbing off on you. Finally, my attitude is finally rubbing off." So it was a triumphant moment, and it just happened 2 days ago.
I mean,
Thrilled that she said that.
To just like, have your own sovereignty and not, not give in to every whim is a radical act. So I think we've gotten to the bottom of this.
All right, so that by the example of what she did, that's how I radicalized her. There it is. You're right. We got the answer. My God, what a you're a Jedi master here.
Yeah,
well done.
Do you want to? So
I was calling you Charlie Rose facetiously earlier, but
she was kind of like,
minus the harassment.
Yeah, she was trying to kind of set up a play date for us, and so she was like suggesting these games that we play, and she said, "I'm going to read.
Do it.
You can play 2 games. Would you rather, and this or that, with a Doomer Optimist theme. For example, would you rather live in a pod and eat the bugs, but get to watch movies shot on film, or live on some land but never get to see a film again? This or that example. Neil Clark or Scratchy Johnson."
Oh no, yeah, that's the example. No, I'm not. This isn't Sophie's choice. You're not making me choose between Neil Clark and Scratchy Johnson.
That's just the example of the question. But
yeah, I know, and I'm not doing it. I refuse. No,
you're not
I refuse to answer that one. No, I'm playing the game. I'm just not picking between Scratchy and Neil.
Yeah. Okay. So, would you rather? Let's see. Would you rather live in Uruguay, but you had to live in an apartment complex with no land, or would you rather live in Chicago? I don't know. It's not a very good question, but it's just what I came up with.
No, I would rather live in Chicago if I couldn't live where I live in Uruguay.
Yeah. So the land is really important.
I mean, like, how often do I get to leave? Like, do I have disposable income? It's like, then too many hypotheticals pop up. Like, do I have disposable income where I can just like go and just go visit the country all the time if I wanted to? Nah, that's not realistic. So no, I take Chicago.
Okay. Let's see. So this or that example. Let's see.
I Googled "would you rather" random word generator, so we'll go to that for the next step. Go ahead. Let's go with the pointed stuff or the pertinent stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of a this or that example. So she suggested comparing between people, which probably isn't very nice. Since this is
gossip. It's gossip. I don't engage in gossip.
Yeah. That's not good. Oh boy, I don't know. Can you think of a setup?
Dogs or cats? That's you start.
Oh man, they're both a pain in the ass. No,
they're both super annoying.
I like them both. I grew up with both. They're lovely. We just got a couple cats. I wouldn't have myself if it was just up to me, just because you have to take care of them and you have to feed them, and just another dependency in terms of that. But at the same time, I think my kid really likes them, teaching him empathy, and and they're growing on me. They like to run in front of me when I'm walking, which is great. They like to, one of them ran into the chicken coop the other day, and was digging up probably to shit in my garden. So that wasn't so great, but I like them.
I'll take dog because trainable and don't try to sneak into the house all the time.
Right. But then
cats don't bark. Damn. Because like the dogs are barking right now, right before we started. I was trying to put the 1-year-old to sleep, and they were keeping her up. Stupid. They're just, I don't know. Sometimes they're barking at real stuff like foxes, but all right. What else you got?
Let's see, this or that. Hmm.
Or truth or dare, but there's no dares. It's all just truths.
Right, right.
Come on, Twitter. Where you at, Twitter?
Would you rather live in a pod and eat the bugs, but get to watch movies shot on film, or live on some land but never get to see a film again?
Second one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that seems pretty obvious.
As long as I have food.
Let's amend that a little bit. You you still lived in the pod, but you got it. You were able to eat steak, and you had great VR of, any place you wanted to be, and it felt real and it felt embodied. Or live on some land, but never. But let's just say it was a hard Scrabble existence. You barely were able to meet your basic needs.
Yeah, when you put steak in there, it made it a contest, but I'll still take the second one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that says a lot about you right there. I think that's kind of that kind of summarizes what you've been talking about this whole time. Yeah. I don't know. Can you think of any?
Yeah, let's go. We're gonna consult the internet. Come on, internet.
Random word dinner.
No, come on. Ooh. These are so dumb though. God, freaking the dumb stuff on the internet is so dumb. I'll pick the good ones. Would you rather lose all your money or lose your best friend?
I think I would rather lose all of my money. I think that's the thing I'm supposed to say, but I have to, actually, to be honest, I have to really think about that.
You can always make money back. You can't get your best friend back. Yeah, lose. I mean, I've already lost my best friend a couple of times. They're still alive, but
yeah. No, I'm gonna say it sounds right to say I'd rather lose all my money, but that's something I'd have to meditate on if I'm being real with y'all.
All right, number 7 on the list. Would you rather live in the past or live in the present?
I think that this tendency of fetishizing times in the past, even if we think that they were better in many ways, I don't think that's healthy. I'd rather live now. For all the problems of modernity and that we've talked about, there are a lot of my life, I think, is pretty great right now. There's a lot of, there might be a lot of hardship in the future, but there's also a lot of opportunities to carve out, meaningful life.
That's a good answer, but you're wrong. The past.
Well, what time period would you rather live in?
Oh, be born in 1905. So that
you're too young for
too young for World War One.
Too old for World War II.
Could be too old to be drafted to World War II, and yeah, die at age 86 in 1991. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Cold War, a little bit of Cold War. I mean, I'm assuming in United States context, but yeah, Cold War anxiety a little bit, but nah, you're okay.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
Let's see. During the Great Depression.
Really, it would be something way cooler and way earlier.
You would have to live through the Great Depression. You'd be like 25.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, be okay. Be okay.
That's just for an example. That's just like that's one of the possible options. What else? I mean, yeah, 18. A lot of wars in Europe. 1800s in South America wouldn't have been that bad, honestly. They might have been pretty cool. Yeah. All right, ready? Oh, okay. Friggin'. These are so stupid.
It's okay. Ask a stupid one. Maybe we can make it interesting.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Revise it.
Oh, rather be able to talk to animals, a la Dr. Dolittle, or to speak any human language.
I think I'd rather be able to speak any human language. I'm sorry, animals, but I don't really need to talk to you in your language.
This is a perfect. I got my microphone like I'm some kind of broadcaster. Now I'm in the beeratory, territory beer. Huh? Yeah. Beeratory of picking up your microphone. It's completely pointless. All right. There is something that you were supposed to ask me, but it's okay because you don't have to, because I'm going to get into it regardless without forcing it.
Okay.
There's a guy, he's pretty well known. He's in Europe. He's an English guy named John Gray. He writes books. He's written for a lot of publications. He was a professor of like basically history and philosophy. And he wrote a book called Straw Dogs. And he said, there's a line in the book. It's about a lot of stuff, but he said, if lions could speak, lions, the animals, if lions could speak, we would not understand them. So if lions could speak English, it would be incoherent to us because their perspective on the world and their consciousness is in all likelihood not translatable to a human consciousness.
Yeah.
So
That's
if
right.
it's Dr. Doolittle, still it's not that appealing to me. It's like, I want to go outside. I want to go outside. It's a dog telling you he wants to go outside. Like, who cares?
Right.
And then if you can speak any human language. But the reason I brought up John Gray was because of that stupid, terrible would you rather question. But John Gray said something about play. And this was on the list that Ashley was curating for when you were supposed to talk to me, which is right now. And he was talking about how playing, John Gray was talking about this. The point of play is that it has no point. And the person who is the best at fishing in a stream recreationally, it's not the person who catches the most fish, not a commercial fisher, but like just going fishing. It's not the person who catches the most, enjoys himself the most when he goes fishing. And this is a lesson I'll never forget about, like play and things that don't have real world. There's no life and death. There's no survival or demise on the line. And this is a reason that people love playing sports so much, is because you get to simulate like the struggle towards this like victory. But you're not on a Roman battlefield. You're not like gonna get your head chopped off if you don't make a layup or if you don't like, hit an ace on the tennis court. It's simulating it, and it's a thing we need to pursue in order to feel fulfilled. But ultimately, it is not for anything, and it's very low stakes. And I think the people expressing their opinions on social media, I think it's actually, as long as it's not just pointless, stupid, addictive type stuff, it's really cathartic, and it can be, as long as you avoid the pitfalls, because there's nothing at stake. If you're just some person like even you or Ashley with thousands of people following on Twitter, like that's, you're not really anybody anyway or still. So but you fulfill this need to express yourself with nothing on the line, much like sports, much like fishing, much like a lot of these things. And it's definitely a thing. There's no other reason for it. It's play. It's armchair cultural commentary play. You have to be careful to not let it veer into the unhealthy, but overall it can be healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's a low-key unseen benefit of the social media that I am really I would say hyper critical of, that I don't think, I'm never going to portray something as wholly good or wholly bad.
Yeah.
When it's not that, not that it doesn't have its own.
Kind of what you're saying is that social media kind of gives us a play version of real life.
Yeah, an outlet to express ourselves with no consequence. It sucks for those people who are like getting fired because there's something they said pissed off the wrong person or whatever. But like, let's just say pre that.
But then of course people will say, is that it becomes addictive and it actually takes us away from our real life. And so this is an example of how, we're entering the meta space, the metasphere.
That might also be true. I think that both things could be true. Yeah, I think both things could be true. But what I'm really speaking to more is not like a value judgment as the thing or as good or bad, but like the human need to do that and express it and get it out. I think that is a good thing. Yeah. That this is the medium through which that happens. It might ultimately not necessarily turn out to be a good thing, but yes.
Although
you're right. You're
tend to think that
Valid.
does have more real world consequences than we think. I mean, I often wonder when I tweet things, when I express things, there's a lot of contextual loss, associated with that. And people are going to interpret what you say in many different ways. They don't really know you. You're just this avatar. And it might impact real world decisions that they make, for good or ill. And I tend to think that a lot of what we're seeing on social media with the culture warring and things of that nature, they're going to start becoming embodied pretty quickly. And we're going to start seeing, I would say almost a reorganization of society based on the dynamics that we're seeing on social media. I'm just pushing back a little bit. Yeah, I agree with your thing about being a way to kind of just express yourself with low stakes, but I don't think in the long term it is low stakes.
Yeah, and you could ultimately be proven correct. I hope not. Let's just vow and do our part to not actively fan flames of, in real life, animosity or worse, violence.
Well,
so there you go.
There we go.
Vow made. All right, what do you got? What else you got? I got some more would you rathers.
Go for it.
Would you rather be the smartest person in the room or the best looking? Oh, I don't have to worry about either of those.
I was going to
say, rather be the smartest or best looking.
The smartest or the best looking. I'd rather be the smartest because
I totally disagree. I'd rather be the best looking.
Yeah.
Why? What do you gain? The smartest person in the room is the person who's the most aware of all the stuff that's the most annoying and most troublesome and bothersome.
Well, when I was thinking of the smartest, I was thinking not the neurotic kind of intelligence, right? So there's kind of being really smart where it just makes you completely neurotic because you're just picking up on so many different things and you can't.
It doesn't say the most charming person in the room. It says smartest person in the room, which is maybe you are sometimes when you go into certain rooms. But I don't know. I don't think that gets you anything as far as your own well-being, personally.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Well, I mean, there's not much you can do about being the best looking or not, but you can arguably.
Oh yeah, you can. You can punch yourself in the face. You can wear really bad clothing.
Yeah. Okay.
You can just go like this all day.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, well, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You can make yourself look ugly.
Yeah, you are the smartest person in the room right now. You just beat me in an argument. So.
Well, I'd rather not be, for the record.
Yeah. Let's do a this or that example.
All right.
Yeah. Would you? Let's see. I don't know. I'm starting to. I can't really think of much.
Dig deep, Cognizor. Just give me 2 or 3 of them, and then we'll cut it. Come on, we got this.
This or that.
Back to my coaching days.
Okay. This or that.
The left one looks like it's got more in it.
They're both empty. You lose. I'm sorry. Well, okay. You have some books behind you. Argentina or Brazil?
Argentina.
Yeah.
Yeah. For better or worse, Argentina.
Do people in Uruguay, who are they more favorable towards?
No, not one or the other, but their skepticism is more what is the word? It's like their skepticism is more well known to them, and they know why they're right in their skepticism towards Argentine people.
Yeah. Okay. So
they know Argentine people well enough to know why they're annoyed by them more than they do Brazilians.
Yeah. Why are they annoyed by them?
Argentinians are kind of like the US of South America. They're the biggest. They're like the most arrogant. They're the ones who have money, are like really wealthy, and they just kind of act like they're better than everybody.
Yeah.
and then they go other places and they can't turn it off. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And what is Brazil like in that? Is Brazil have more humility?
Brazil's a bit of the Wild West of South America. It's just, from what I understand, I've not been there really. I've not spent any significant time there, but it's just like very big stratification. Like the wealthy people are very wealthy and the poor people have nothing or just live in a forest type situation. So the spectrum is wide, let's put it that way, in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And they speak Portuguese instead of Spanish, so that's weird.
Yeah. Drunk Spanish.
No, but Portuguese is a sweet language. It's more pleasant to listen to, I think, than Spanish. If you listen to like both side by side, the same. Let's just take the same translation, have a Brazilian person read it versus anybody from South America read it.
Portuguese? Can you speak and understand Portuguese?
I've taken one semester of accelerated Portuguese for Romance language speakers, so yeah, I can read a Portuguese newspaper, and I can. I would say you'd probably call it conversational in Portuguese. But then I'll insert a Spanish word like every 10th word because I forget what it is, or I never learned it.
Right. Yeah. Well, is there anything else we should talk about?
Yes. Would you rather kiss a frog or kiss a llama? These questions are so stupid. So no is the answer.
I think I'd rather kiss a frog. You just kiss it. You can doesn't even say where to kiss it. You just kiss it on the back, as long as it's not poisonous.
Oh yeah, frogs. Yeah, I'd probably rather kiss a frog than a llama. Llamas, like, they spit. They don't smell that great. I've been up close in person with llamas before. They have the really long tongue, so if they go in for that tongue kiss, because you're just the most, the best looking and the smartest person in that room, because the only other people in that room are all llamas.
Yeah.
And then you're just
and
you're basically married.
Yeah. Everyone knows that when you kiss someone, that means you're married.
At least when you kiss a llama, it might. We don't know. Science doesn't know.
Right.
All right.
We can't communicate with llamas, so we don't know what they're thinking. If that's how.
And if they could speak, we wouldn't understand them.
That's right.
Cut.